Reaction to these quarantine measures. Simon McNamara represents the International Air Transport Association in the UK and Ireland, and he joins me now. Well, hello there to you. Firstly, I'd just like to have your reaction to the UK and Norway's imposition of quarantine for travellers returning from Spain. How do you view that?
I think that, we're trying to find a situation where we can start to travel again, and where the travel industry can start moving again. And what we've seen is blanket quarantines like we've seen imposed by the UK are not a good way of dealing with this issue. And we'd really like to move to a situation where you have targeted measures looking at where the risks are, to allow people to travel safely, but also to allow economies to get moving again.
I understand where you're coming from, but really, how can you have targeted measures? Because tourists will basically find ways, those who want to circumvent those restrictions.
Well, I think, you have to remember these quarantine measures are imposed by governments, and people should be respecting government rules. So it's quite within the right of government to impose these measures. But what we want is smarter measures that allow people who've been to certain areas potentially to quarantine, or indeed to look at alternative measures like testing, which will allow people not to have to quarantine when they return home.
OK, so why do you think the government rushed into this in such a way that its own transport minister was stuck in Spain when he found out that these measures had been imposed?
The UK has been clear it would always, if necessary, put in place what they call like a handbrake mechanism, which would be a very quick intervention. And I think that's within their rights. But what we need to see is a more coordinated way that gives time for businesses and consumers to prepare and get ready. And that can be done very quickly. I think the issue here was that the government announced on Friday that a new list would be published today, and that would have included Spain, and then suddenly on Saturday Spain was excluded. So I think perhaps the way it was handled wasn't the most optimum way, and I think the key impact of this is going to be the impact on consumer confidence here, and that's a very big issue for businesses that are trying to restart, and the aviation industry in particular. We're not expecting to see traffic levels to recover for 3 years, so we need something to get businesses moving, to protect jobs, and we need to do that safely. And this is a blanket measure that quarantine in the UK has introduced, and it's not a clever way of doing it.
OK, if it's not a clever way of doing it, but the airline industry is faced with these sort of knee-jerk reactions, one might say, how can the airline industry adapt to what is becoming a new normal?
Well, I think we've been accepting of the new normal for some time, and actually both globally through an international regulatory body called ICAO, we've developed enhanced hygiene and safety measures on board aircraft. For example, the mandatory wearing of face masks, increased cleaning, high volumes of airflow, the use of HEPA filters on board as a means of ensuring and giving customers the confidence that it is indeed safe to be traveling. And we see this as the new normal for the immediate future.
So just how safe is it, though, really? You've just talked about those new measures, but just how safe is it for a passenger to be in this very tightly enclosed space with other people close by them? In a plane, obviously.
Well, we're actually... Yeah, I mean, what people sometimes don't forget is a plane, by definition, is a very complex piece of engineering with air moving around, and it's, it has HEPA filters equivalent to operating theatres and so on. The air is moved generally from the top of the aircraft to the bottom and recycles very quickly. So we are confident it is as safe as travelling on many forms of transport, and importantly, it allows people to travel. And we must allow people to travel to ensure that economies keep working, but we must do it safely. And we think these measures that we put in place will allow that to happen.
OK, well, thanks so much for bringing us your insight, Simon McNamara there.